Hello, Night City. What's shaking, Night City? Good morning, Night City!
After playing a whopping 16 hours of Cyberpunk 2077, I feel like I've only just started to scratch below the surface of what's here. Night City is dense and stunning, packed with adrenaline-filled shootouts, compelling conversations, and a copious amount of choices to explore. 2020's most anticipated game certainly isn't without its rough edges, but once I made it past Cyberpunk 2077's lengthy prologue, it clicked. And now all I want is more.
No. This isn't happening.
Oh, but it is!
Cyberpunk 2077 is a surprisingly slow burn, with an immense amount of options and depth. I only truly got a grasp of its pace and structure about 8 hours in, and spent the second 8 settling into what it actually felt like to play. Avoiding spoilers entirely, the prologue is essentially a microcosm of the larger game. It's a fun introduction to the world and its characters, but it wasn't until its end that Cyberpunk 2077 really sank its hooks into me. It's a slow walk to get there, but all that setup makes the larger story you're eventually thrust into that much more compelling.
What do you want from me?
From there, Night City opens up wide. You're kicked into the world with a larger goal and a list of side quests already so long you could spend days on it before even looking at the central story. Night City's fairly cluttered map is immediately filled with points of interest, gangs to fight, and missions to complete. In addition to the story-driven main quest lines, there are more personal side missions that break off of them, alongside niche activities like bare-knuckle boxing fights. Cyberpunk 2077 empowers you with a shopping list of interesting stuff and just says go. The stories being told were largely pretty great too. I'm excited to see how the main plot plays out, both in a grand sense and with specific impressively acted characters I've already grown attached to. Side missions were also a lot of fun, whether they had me infiltrating enemy buildings, tracking down silly rogue AI taxis, or partaking in genuinely touching moments like going to a funeral. It's impossible to say how that quality will hold up over what appears to be a downright massive campaign, but I appreciated Cyberpunk 2077 was willing to have intimate human conversations even when its world is filled with excess and flash. Unfortunately, with any game this ambitious, some spots are bound to be rougher than others, and while the quests themselves were entertaining, the way they're managed seemed lacking. Cyberpunk 2077's quest log is a big, messy list, offering no information on what a quest will reward upon completion and only a vague indication of how its difficulty compares to your current level. If it's going to give me this many things to do at once, then I wish there were better tools to inform my decisions about the order to do them in. Thankfully, one of my favorite things to do was just drive. Simply put, Night City is stunning. I don't think I've ever seen another video game city quite like it. It's gorgeous, rich in detail, and with a verticality and scale that's genuinely amazing. There's a fast travel system available, but I honestly felt like I was missing out anytime I used it. Unlike other open-world RPGs like Fallout 4 or The Witcher 3, for example, combat isn't an inherent part of that travel either. If I wanted to go from point A to point B, I could do so without worrying about being jumped. As a result, I sometimes went hours at a time without ever drawing a weapon, completing missions just by having conversations and sneaking around a bit. Smaller fights can be found around almost any corner, but you sort of have to go looking for trouble between big quest encounters if you want it. This is fundamentally an RPG, not an action game, and the focus here still feels centered around story and player choice despite its FPS combat. I didn't mind those larger chunks of quiet either, as I generally enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077's dialogue more than its combat. It's certainly not bad, but if you're playing this like a straight FPS, then you'll probably be disappointed. Enemies have a surprising amount of health, often acting as bullet sponges that can take multiple shots to the head. It wasn't until deep into my playtime where I felt the combat really started to gel, once I had unlocked a few more options and specialized weapons. By the end, I was sneaking into rooms, getting off a hack to reveal enemy positions, using a chargeable rifle to then shoot them through the wall from another room, and then pulling out a legendary katana if anybody got too close. That ruled. The spongy health bars were still there, but I think this is where the strength of Cyberpunk 2077's combat lies. It didn't necessarily amaze me in the heat of any given fight, but the vibe, style, and sheer volume of choices let me find something that had me personally grinning from ear to ear. There are loads of systems to support whichever playstyle is most appealing to you, be they weapon types, stat-based improvements, or cybernetic augmentations. Once I stealthily cleared out an entire 4-floor base without ever firing a shot, while other times my character's high body stat let me rip open doors and rush straight in. I left Cyberpunk 2077 hungry for more, and it certainly has more to offer. Night City is rad as hell, a gorgeous world that you could get lost in a dozen different ways. Much like even the excellent Witcher 3 before it though, it's certainly not without its rough edges. But they didn't stop what it does well from shining brightly. Even after 16 hours, I feel like I've only just started to experience everything here, and it only got more exciting the deeper I went. For more on Cyberpunk 2077, check out some Series X gameplay, or its latest trailer. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.